since the first Snowden revelations, which were almost exactly a year ago, when The Guardian first published them, there have been two sort of concurrent reactions. One has been outrage at Snowden himself for creating what people in the government say is a very severe harm to national security, and the argument about what should happen to him, whether he should be prosecuted, whether he's a villain, whether he's a hero. But concurrent with that has been a surprising consensus that there have been excesses and that the surveillance programs have gone too far. And it's possible to believe both of these things. In fact, the president clearly believes both of these things and is simultaneously maintaining that Snowden should be subject to prosecution, and that now that we know, we should be reining in and scaling back.
Yeah, that's a little weird. And I think, if I can turn the tables a little bit, this is something that you dealt with in the foreword that you did to the book, Attacks on the Press, which is, what is the role of the press in covering this issue, and what is the responsibility of government? Your focus, your concern is on accountability and oversight more than the activities that were carried out, correct?
Yes. Well, I think it's a legitimate issue what the limits on surveillance should be. I certainly think that I would not take the position that the NSA should be doing nothing and should not be trying to have access to encryption systems and gathering some data. The question is what those limits are. And if there's no public knowledge, there can't be any democratic discussion or deliberation about where the limits should be. So essentially, pre-Snowden, the public knew more or less nothing. And in fact, much of the government, Congress knew nothing. And so you had no practical democratic oversight and no real congressional oversight. I think Snowden has gone a pretty long way toward correcting that problem. We don't know everything about the program, but we have a pretty good idea. We knew much more than anybody could have imagined about the details of what the NSA was doing. And Congress has woken up, and it's permitted a more open discussion there about what the limits should be. There's reform. The president has proposed a series of reforms. He appointed this 5-member commission, which made a series of recommendations, some of which he took. There's legislation that passed the House Judiciary Committee yesterday. So from my point of view, this crime that Snowden committed, and it pretty clearly was a crime, has produced a largely positive outcome, which is that we now have the makings of some accountability around this program.
Are you as conflicted as the president, or slightly less conflicted? I mean, like in this equation of the, I mean, do you obviously think there's been a benefit, but you also think there's a crime that's been committed. So how do you reconcile those two things, or maybe what advice do you give to the president about how he should reconcile?
Well, it's not up to me. I mean, I certainly would be in the pardon Snowden camp, because I think the consequences of what he did have been very positive, even though I wouldn't defend his actions, partly because I don't think he exhausted the available alternatives for creating internal review.
I think the worst thing he did was end up in Russia. I mean, let's agree to that. And we've seen him, hopefully inadvertently, be a useful tool for Putin, which in my mind is really unforgivable.
Yeah.
Given his role.
But I'm not sure there was a good way to do it. I mean, there were a variety of possible bad ways.